Asbestos. Asbestos is a family of 6 silicate minerals. All types of asbestos are characterized by visible, long, thin, fibrous crystals. Each visible fiber is composed of millions of microscopic fibrils that can be mechanically released. Serpentine class fibers are curly. Amphibial class fibers are needle-like and are generally considered more pathogenic. Asbestos has been used since ancient times, at least 4,500 years ago. Asbestos mining increased in the industrial area. It was used for various purposes, including fireproofing, thermal, and chemical insulation. The spectrum of asbestos products has been very wide, such as asbestos cement, boards, and pipes for construction, thermal pipe insulation, laboratory heating devices, interior fire doors, and fireproofing clothing for firefighters. Artificial Christmas snow in the movie industry, gas mask filters, and cigarette filters. Fortunately, the exposure to asbestos was markedly more frequent in the past. The exposure was often occupational, for example, miners and factory workers handling asbestos. Environmental exposure happens when you are living too close to mines and factories. Indirect exposure was also common and just as dangerous as the first-hand exposure. Family members were often exposed to fine asbestos fibers that were brought home on the cloth, skin, or hair of workers. Their inhalation likely happened when they washed their work clothes. Since the 1970s and mainly the 1980s, asbestos consumption has been gradually reduced in Europe and North America. Asbestos materials began to be removed from old buildings or replaced. Participating workers represent a new group endangered by asbestos exposure. Asbestos is one of the best-known inhaled toxicants. Then, asbestos fibers are released by abrasion. They get into the air and can enter the body during breathing. The effects of asbestos intoxication depend on the duration and intensity of the exposure. In general, a long-term exposure is needed in order to induce asbestos-associated diseases. There is a long latency period, about 10 or 20 years, or even up to 40 years. The heavier and more frequent exposure, the higher the risk. The hazards depend on fiber length and diameter. Today, any exposure to asbestos is considered risky, and there are no safe levels. Smoking increases the risk of impact on health. Once inhaled, the asbestos fibers are phagocyted by alveolar macrophages. Short fibers are completely ingested and removed via the mucociliary escalator. Longer fibers are incompletely ingested. Macrophages are not capable of removing them, and the fibers are indefinitely trapped in the alveoli. Trapped macrophages become activated and generate pro-inflammatory mediators. These mediators recruit inflammatory cells, which release other mediators, stimulate production of collagen and ROS. Asbestosis is the best known asbestos-related disease. It is of the pneumoconiosis type. Asbestos fibers accumulate in the lungs and cause a chronic inflammation. Inflammation stimulates fibroblast proliferation and excessive collagen production. Diffuse collagen deposition results in the generalized lung fibrosis. Pleural plaques develop in more than half of the cases. They limit the lung expansion, which results in breathing difficulties. Asbestosis patients have an 8 or 10 times higher risk of lung cancer than those without asbestosis. There is no cure for asbestosis. The treatment only slows down its progression and improves the quality of life. Patients should avoid further exposure to asbestos and other airborne agents. The following medicines can increase the quality of life. Respiratory physiotherapy helps remove mucus from the lungs. Preventive anti-influenza and anti-pneumococcal vaccinations are recommended. In severe cases, lung transplantation is possible.